The Oregon sun casts long shadows across the perfect rows of rose bushes lining my parents' driveway. I grip the steering wheel tighter, my knuckles blanching white against the black leather. 6 years. 6 years since I've driven up this winding path to the sprawling colonial house that never quite felt like mine. My tires crunch over the immaculate gravel. Dad still rakes it every Sunday, I bet. The American flag snaps in the autumn breeze, a patriotic sentinel I once found comforting. Now it feels like an ironic greeting. They never understood what serving under that flag meant to me. I park behind Bradley's gleaming silver Audi. Of course he's already here. Probably arrived exactly 15 minutes early, not too eager, not fashionably late. The perfect son. My fingers find the small velvet box in my jacket pocket. Inside rest my colonel's eagles, pinned just last month with generals watching and no family present. I trace the raised metal edges through the fabric, drawing strength from what they represent. The walk to the front door stretches longer than the runway at Bagram. Each step forward fights against the urge to retreat. I haven't even knocked yet, and already my throat tightens. I take a deep breath, release it slowly, knock. Mom answers, her face brightening with a smile that doesn't quite reach her eyes. Cassandra, finally. She pulls me into a hug that smells of Chanel No. 5 and disapproval. Hi, Mom. I return the embrace, already counting the hours until I can leave. The dining room gleams with Mom's obsessive attention to detail. Great. Grandmother's china plates positioned with mathematical precision. Crystal glasses catching the light from the chandelier. Linen napkins folded into perfect swans. The Miller family stage set for another performance. There she is! Dad's voice booms across the room as I enter. He claps Bradley on the shoulder, nearly sloshing his scotch. Just telling everyone about Bradley's big news. Bradley, his golden hair perfectly styled, offers a practiced smile. It's not that big a deal, Dad. Not that big? Dad laughs. Leading a $950 million defense project is not that big? Always so modest, this one. Victoria, my cousin, sips her wine with calculated poise. Her eyes assess my simple black pants and button-up shirt like I've arrived in pajamas. Cassandra, darling. It's been forever. What exactly do you do in the military anyway? Something with computers, right? I open my mouth to respond, but Bradley cuts in. Cassie works in cybersecurity. He says, the diminutive of my name making me 30 again, not 30, but nothing like what we're doing at Stellar Tech. The private sector is where the real innovations happen. I take a long sip of water, swallowing both the liquid and the correction that dies in my throat. Let them believe what they want. Tomorrow will come soon enough. Dad raises his glass. To the Miller family success story, his eyes barely flicker toward me before returning to Bradley, carrying on the legacy of excellence. The toast tastes bitter. I'm transported back to Dad's study, mahogany and leather and disappointment. 22 years old, acceptance letter in hand. The Air Force? Dad had said, face flushed with anger. A waste of your potential. The military is for people without options, Cassandra. Mom had cried when I chose the academy over the Stellar Tech internship. Actual tears, as if I'd died instead of chosen a different path. The unanswered calls during my first deployment. The family Christmas card where Bradley's promotion got 3 paragraphs, and I got a single line, Cassandra continues her service. So, Dad says, cutting into his steak with surgical precision, big day tomorrow. The Pentagon review team arrives at 9 sharp. Bradley nervously shuffles through note cards beside his plate. I've been preparing for weeks. This contract could transform the company. Will you at least wear something presentable tomorrow if you insist on attending? Mom asks, eyeing my outfit with thinly veiled hope. First impressions matter with these military types. I've got something appropriate, I answer, hiding my smile behind my water glass. Excuse me, I say after declining dessert. It's been a long day. In the guest room, never my room. Not really. I unlock my suitcase. Inside, wrapped in protective plastic, hangs my dress uniform. Medals and ribbons catch the light as I carefully remove it, smoothing invisible wrinkles. My phone buzzes with a text from Colonel Jenkins. Confirmed for 0900, team in position. I hang the uniform on the closet door, the eagles on my shoulders gleaming under the soft bedroom light. Tomorrow, the ambush will be mine. My alarm is set for 5:30 a.m., a full hour before anyone else will stir. I look at old family photos on the dresser. In each one, I stand slightly apart, already fading from the frame. Beside them, I place a handwritten list of 6 years of accomplishments nobody in this house has ever asked about. Tomorrow, I won't need to say a word. My work will speak for itself. I slip into my dress uniform at 5:45 a.m. next morning, fingers tracing each medal with reverence. 6 years of service, 6 years of sacrifice. All arranged in perfect military precision across my chest. The mirror reflects a stranger to this house, Colonel Cassandra Miller, not the disappointing daughter they've dismissed for years. The weight of the eagles on my shoulders steadies me. I smooth invisible wrinkles from my skirt and adjust my hat to regulation angle. Not a hair out of place, not a thread loose. Perfect. Downstairs, murmured voices drift from the kitchen. I stand at the top of the stairs, listening. Should we wake Cassandra? Mom asks, the clink of silverware punctuating her words. It's nearly 7. Let her sleep, Dad says, his newspaper rustling. Nothing she can contribute to today's meeting anyway. Bradley laughs, the sound brittle. She probably stayed up playing video games or whatever she does in that cyber job of hers. My hand tightens on the banister. 1 deep breath. 2. I descend the stairs, each footfall deliberate. The kitchen falls silent as I enter. 4 pairs of eyes widen, taking in my uniform. Dad's coffee cup hovers midair. Bradley's fork clatters against china. Victoria, who must have arrived early to network, chokes on her mimosa. Mom speaks first, voice fluttering like a trapped bird. Cassandra, what on earth are you wearing? My uniform. I pour coffee into a travel mug, movements measured and precise. Dad's face reddens. You're not seriously planning to attend the meeting dressed like that? I am required to wear proper military attire when representing the Pentagon, Dad. Bradley's face drains of color. Representing the Pentagon? What are you talking about? I check my watch. We should leave in 10 minutes to arrive on schedule. Victoria recovers first, designer heels clicking as she approaches. You look so official, Cassie. I've always said the military was perfect for you. No, you haven't, I reply, meeting her gaze steadily. 15 minutes later, Dad's car smells of leather polish and expensive cologne. Bradley sits beside him in the passenger seat, shuffling note cards with trembling hands. Mom and Victoria flank me in the back, creating a buffer of silk blouses and perfume. The silence stretches like overwound piano wire. Victoria leans toward me, voice pitched to a whisper. Seriously, Cassie, the playing dress-up thing is cute, but you might embarrass Brad in front of his colleagues. I focus on my phone, reviewing security assessment notes. Mom pats my knee, her diamond tennis bracelet catching the morning light. You do look very nice, dear. The color brings out your eyes. The uniform is Air Force blue, not Navy. I say nothing. Dad adjusts the rearview mirror, catching my gaze. I hope you understand this is a serious business meeting. There are protocols. I'm familiar with protocols, Dad. An hour later, the Stellar Tech campus rises from manicured grounds glass and steel, reflecting Oregon's fitful morning sunshine. Dad pulls into his reserved parking space, Rhode Island Chard Miller, Executive VP embossed on a brass plaque. We enter through revolving doors, Dad leading our procession with practiced confidence. Morning, Jim, he nods to the security guard. The guard's eyes widen, gaze fixed over Dad's shoulder. He straightens abruptly. Good morning, Colonel Miller. His hand rises in a sharp salute. Dad stops mid-stride, confusion rippling across his face. The receptionist stands too, her smile directed at me. Colonel Miller, your team arrived 15 minutes ago. They're waiting in conference room A. Thank you, Sarah. I don't ask how she knows my name. 2 junior officers approach from across the lobby, tablets in hand. Colonel Miller, preliminary security scans complete. Lieutenant Parker has the initial vulnerability assessment ready for your review. Thank you, Captain Jenkins. Please have the team prepare for a 0930 briefing. Victoria's mouth hangs open. Bradley tugs at his collar, sweat beading his forehead. Cassandra, Dad hisses, what is going on? Follow me, I say, walking toward the executive elevator. We'll be late. The boardroom doors open to reveal polished walnut and floor-to-ceiling windows. CEO Eleanor Blakey, silver-haired woman I've spoken with via secure video conference for months, rises from her chair. "Colonel Miller," she says warmly, extending her hand, "the Pentagon has been singing your praises. We're honored to have you personally overseeing this contract review." Dad makes a strangled sound beside me. "Thank you, Miss Blake," I reply, shaking her hand firmly. "I believe you know my father, Richard Miller." Eleanor's eyebrows rise. "Your father? Richard, you never mentioned your daughter was the Pentagon's lead cybersecurity liaison. What a remarkable coincidence." "Lead liaison?" Bradley repeats, his voice cracking. "Of course." Eleanor continues. "Colonel Miller's team will make the final recommendation on the $950 million contract. Her cybersecurity unit is legendary in defense circles." Victoria sidles next to me, her arm slipping through mine. "We've always been so proud of Cassandra's accomplishments." She gushes. "I was just telling her this morning how perfect she is for military leadership." I disengage her arm, taking my seat at the head of the conference table. "Shall we begin?" I place my leather portfolio squarely before me, aligning it with the table edge. "I understand Mr. Bradley Miller will be presenting the security protocols today." Bradley stumbles toward the podium, dropping his note cards. His hands shake as he loads his presentation. "Good morning, everyone. I'm Bradley Miller, project lead for Operation Sentinel." His eyes keep darting to my medals, to the eagles on my shoulders. He fumbles through his introduction, words tangling as he realizes exactly who he's presenting to. "If I could direct your attention to slide 16. I interrupt as he glosses over critical encryption failures. "Your quantum-resistant algorithm contains a significant vulnerability in the key generation protocol." Bradley's mouth opens and closes. What? That's not possible. We've tested." The specific attack vector involves a side-channel timing analysis that would compromise the entire communication network. I open my laptop, pulling up the detailed assessment. "Your team missed it because they're using outdated threat modeling." The room falls silent. Pentagon officials nod in agreement, making notes. "But that would mean..." Bradley trails off, comprehension dawning. "It means," Eleanor says, turning to me, "we need your recommendations before proceeding, Colonel Miller." I nod, feeling my father's stunned gaze boring into me. "I've prepared a comprehensive security framework addressing these vulnerabilities. With proper implementation, the system can exceed DoD requirements." Bradley stares at his presentation, then at me. For the first time in 6 years, he's seeing me, really seeing me. Not little sister Cassie playing soldier, but Colonel Miller, whose expertise could save or sink his career. Dad's pen rolls off the table. He doesn't move to pick it up. "I believe," I say, voice steady, "we have a lot to discuss." Half an hour later, the conference room door closes with a pneumatic hiss, sealing us in like specimens in a lab jar. My family arranges themselves on one side of the polished mahogany tabla unified front. Dad's tie is askew. Mom clutches a monogrammed handkerchief. Bradley stares at his presentation notes, now useless. "Why didn't you tell us who you really are?" Dad demands, his voice carrying the same tone he used when I stayed out past curfew at 17. I stand at parade rest, muscle memory from 1,000 briefings. I am exactly who I've always been. Bradley slaps his portfolio onto the table. "You ambushed us professionally. Do you have any idea what you've done?" I conducted a standard Pentagon review, the same one I've performed at 17 other defense contractors this quarter. Victoria slides closer, her designer perfume invading my space. "I've always been your biggest supporter, Cassandra. Always told Richard you were destined for greatness." A laugh escapes before I can contain it. "The last thing you said to me was that military service was such a waste for a girl with your connections." Mom dabs at her eyes, mascara creating tiny dark galaxies on the white cotton. "I don't understand any of this, Cassandra. Why all the secrets?" The question lands like a grenade with the pin pulled. I've rehearsed this moment during lonely nights in barracks across 3 continents, yet now that it's here, my prepared speech evaporates. "Secrets?" The word tastes bitter. I was promoted to captain 6 years ago, lieutenant colonel last spring, full colonel last month, 3 medals hang on this uniform. None of you asked. Dad's face flushes. "You never mentioned?" "I command a cybersecurity unit with 200 personnel. The president himself pinned this commendation. I tapped the ribbon on my chest. I stopped 3 major cyber attacks that would have crippled our infrastructure and cost thousands of lives. The silence stretches like desert highway. Outside, I hear the muffled sounds of office life continuing, phones ringing, conversation, normalcy. In here, time suspends. You could have told us, Bradley says finally. When? The question hangs between us. During the Christmas I spent in a military hospital in Syria? Mom's eyes widen. Hospital? What happened? An operation went sideways. I took shrapnel in my shoulder. I rotate my left arm slightly, an old habit when the weather changes. While I was waiting for surgery, Bradley texted about his new BMW. Bradley's gaze drops to the table. Or maybe during your engagement party? I continue, unable to stop now that the floodgates have opened. The one I missed because my team was preventing Russian hackers from accessing our missile defense systems. Dad straightens his tie, falling back on business habits. You're being dramatic. Am I? Your exact words to Senator Harrison at the country club. My daughter is playing soldier while my son builds something that matters. The senator's aide served under me in Afghanistan. Your comment was repeated in my command center within hours. Dad's face drains of color. I never meant. You did. I pull out my phone, swipe to the photos. Here's the family vacation to Maui last spring. Mom, you, Bradley, Victoria. When I asked why you didn't wait until my deployment ended, you said the reservations couldn't be changed. Victoria examines her manicure. Mom stares at the floor. My phone buzzes. Captain Jenkins checking in. I send a quick thumbs up, grateful for the interruption. That's your team? Mom asks, seizing on anything to change the subject. Captain Jenkins, my second in command, the same officers who threw me a promotion party when I made colonel. I slipped the phone back into my pocket. The same people who helped me through physical therapy after Syria. We would have helped if we'd known, Mom whispers. Would you? The question isn't accusatory, just honest. My phone buzzes again, General Williams asking for an update. 4-star generals wait for my assessment. The irony isn't lost on me. Dad notices. Someone important? Just someone who values my expertise. The contrast feels physical, the weight of stars on generals who seek my counsel versus the weight of disappointment from people who share my DNA. I stand up, adjusting my uniform with practiced precision. The silver eagles catch the fluorescent light. The contract will need modifications before approval. Your encryption protocols are outdated and the firewall design has 3 critical vulnerabilities. I gather my notes, each movement deliberate. The full assessment will be delivered by Friday. That's it? Bradley's voice cracks. You drop these bombshells and then switch to business? I'm separating personal feelings from duty, something I learned early in my career. Victoria reaches for my arm. Cassie, let's not be hasty. Colonel Miller. I correct her gently, removing my arm from her grasp. Dad stands, his businessman instincts kicking in. We should discuss this as a family. I've never sought your approval, I say, the words flowing naturally after years of rehearsal in my head. Only your respect. I straighten my shoulders, the weight of metals earned through blood and sacrifice steadying me. The door handle feels cool against my palm. Behind me, Mom sobs quietly. Bradley shuffles papers. Dad clears his throat, the sound he makes when he's lost control of a meeting. I walk out with the posture drilled into me at the academy, head high, shoulders back, steps measured, not for show, not for them, but because integrity matters most when it costs you something. Captain Jenkins waits in the hallway, tablet in hand. All good, Colonel? I take a breath that fills my lungs completely for the first time in years. Mission accomplished, Captain. Let's get back to work. 3 weeks after the Pentagon review, I park in the Stellar Tech visitor lot rather than the family space Dad always insisted I use. Small rebellions matter. My military ID badge hangs around my neck, no longer hidden in my pocket like a shameful secret. The receptionist, Marlene, according to her nameplate, brightens when I approach. Colonel Miller, they're waiting for you in the Phoenix conference room. She leans forward, voice dropping. Your father was looking for you earlier. I thank her with a nod, noticing how she calls me by my rank without prompting. Word travels fast in corporate corridors. The elevator opens on the executive floor. Two junior engineers snap to attention as I exit, their posture betraying military backgrounds. One nods respectfully. Ma'am. At ease, I respond automatically. I'm a civilian today. Yes, ma'am, they answer in unison, neither relaxing their spines. Outside the conference room, Dad paces with his phone pressed to his ear. His silver hair is slightly disheveled, unprecedented for Richard Miller, who counts haircuts by the week. I understand your concerns, he says, voice tight, but the board should consider that Miller family connections remain an asset to... He stops abruptly when he sees me, something flashing across his face. Not anger. Something I've never seen directed at me before. Desperation. He ends his call. The board wants to know why I never mention my daughter sits on the Pentagon Cybersecurity Council. Because you never asked what I actually do, I answer, keeping my voice neutral. He looks away first. Conference room B is open if you need privacy. I'm here for the technical review with Bradley's team. His eyebrows lift. Bradley requested you specifically? I wasn't informed. Eleanor did. She wants a direct line to Pentagon feedback. I check my watch. I should go. Inside, Bradley stands at the whiteboard, hair rumpled, sleeves rolled to his elbows. So different from his polished dinner persona. His team sits clustered at the far end of the table, leaving the chair beside him conspicuously empty. Colonel Miller, a young programmer, says, standing as I enter. 3 others follow suit. Bradley turns, relief washing over his face. Cassandra. Thanks for coming. He gestures to the empty chair. We've been stuck on the authentication protocol for an hour. For the next 40 minutes, I guide them through military security requirements. When I suggest a modification to their encryption approach, Bradley's team looks to me for approval, not him. I catch his sidelong glance, no resentment, but something like wonder. My phone buzzes with a text from Eleanor. Lunch after the meeting? Without Richard. I type back a simple yes. After the meeting, Bradley walks me to the elevator. You know more about my project than I realized. I've been tracking similar systems for 3 years. He nods, eyes on the floor numbers. Victoria's been trying to use your name to get introduced to Admiral Patterson. I heard. He called to warn me. The elevator opens on the executive dining room. She always thought you were wasting your time, Bradley says quietly. We all did. I know. I was wrong. The admission hangs between us as Eleanor approaches, extending her hand. Colonel, thank you for making time. Richard sends his regrets that he couldn't join us. Her assistant whispers something and she smiles. Apparently he wasn't invited. My mistake. Later that evening, I return to my parents' house to collect my things. Mom stands in the kitchen, a military journal open on the counter. My face stares back from page 33. I found this at Judith's house, she says, voice thick. She's been keeping a scrapbook of your press features. For years. She turns the page, revealing a collection of articles I'd forgotten existed. Why didn't you tell us? Would it have mattered? She flinches as if I'd slapped her. Of course it would have. You never asked, Mom. In the living room, I find Dad at his desk. Without speaking, he slides a newspaper clipping across the polished wood. It's one of my commendation articles, carefully cut and mounted in a small frame. This was on the refrigerator, I observe. I put it there this morning. I trace the edge of the frame, uncertain what to say. We've never had a language for this kind of conversation. My phone pings with an email from Bradley, requesting technical advice on the project revision. At the same time, a text arrives from Victoria. Dinner next week? We should catch up on old times. I delete Victoria's message without responding. Family has always been a battlefield for her, territory to be conquered. Bradley's email gets a measured response, professional guidance without taking over. I set clear boundaries, separating work from our complicated history. That night, I check into a hotel rather than staying another night under their roof. The decision isn't spite, it's self-preservation. Professional detachment requires personal space. In the morning, I receive a call from Dad's assistant. Mr. Miller wondered if you could join a meeting with Northrop executives 3 days later. They've specifically asked to meet his distinguished daughter. Through the hotel window, I watch the Oregon sunrise paint the sky in fierce oranges and reds. 6 years of shadow have shifted to sudden, blinding spotlight. The truth stands revealed in morning light. I never needed their validation. But now, ironically, they seem to need mine. I straighten my uniform jacket. Tell him I'll be there at 9. The meeting went well, and I came back to Seattle. 6 months later, the Seattle morning unfolds through floor-to-ceiling windows, painting my penthouse in golden light. Puget Sound stretches before me like a promise vast, deep, and constant. I straighten a row of framed photographs on the floating shelves, adjusting one that features Captain Jenkins and me receiving commendations after the Tehran cyber operation. My hand lingers on the frame. These aren't staged family portraits with forced smiles and color-coordinated outfits. These are snapshots of lives intertwined through purpose and respect. The real family I built while the one I was born into drifted further away. The doorbell rings at exactly 11 a.m. Military precision becomes a habit that never breaks. I smooth my hands down the front of my casual slacks and take a deep breath. This is my territory, my terms, my truth. When I open the door, Dad stands with his hand half raised, as if caught between a handshake and something more. His eyes dart to the breathtaking view behind me, then back to my face. Cassandra. He extends his hand formally, then abruptly changes course and steps forward with an awkward, tentative hug. His aftershave smells exactly the same as it did when I was 10. Mom follows, clutching a ceramic container like a shield. I brought snickerdoodles. You always liked these when you were little. Her eyes are red, rimmed, her smile uncertain. Bradley enters last, conspicuously missing his usual corporate armor. No designer suit, no power tie, just jeans and a simple button-down shirt. He looks smaller somehow. No Victoria? Bradley asks, scanning the room. No Victoria, I confirm. Some bridges can't be rebuilt. Some shouldn't be. I gesture toward the living area where sunlight streams across the leather sectional. Make yourselves comfortable. They move hesitantly, taking in the space that holds my actual life. The military awards displayed without pretension on the wall. The collection of technical books stacked neatly on industrial shelving. The 3 chess sets from different countries where I've served. The high-end espresso machine that grinds beans for my 4:30 a.m. wake-ups. Dad sits stiffly on the edge of the couch, knees together as if expecting a formal presentation. Mom arranges cookies on the platter I provided, fussing with their placement. Bradley wanders to the window, hands in pockets, shoulders relaxed for perhaps the first time in years. The silence stretches until Dad clears his throat. This is quite a view, he says. That's not why you're here, I answer quietly. His eyes drop to his hands. No, it's not. He looks up, his face stripped of the confident mask he wears in boardrooms. I was wrong, Cassandra, for years. About everything. The words hang in the air between us. Not an easy offering, but a beginning. I dismissed your choices because they weren't mine, he continues. I measured success with a ruler that only recognized what I understood. Mom's hands tremble as she places a cookie back on the plate. I should have stood up for you. When you called from basic training so excited about your first solo flight, I should have celebrated with you instead of crying about how far away you were. Her voice breaks. I failed you as a mother. You never needed my approval, Bradley says, still facing the water. That's what scared me. You chose a path I couldn't even comprehend, and you excelled. While I was fighting for every scrap of Dad's attention, you were saving lives and earning those. He points to my Distinguished Service Medal. Do you know how intimidating that is? How small it made me feel when I realized what you've actually been doing all these years. I don't rush to absolve them. Their words aren't magic spells that instantly heal 6 years of distance. But they're honest words, maybe the first ones we've exchanged since I left for the academy. I cross to my bookshelf and remove a leather-bound album. This is my other family, I say, returning to sit across from them. I open to a page showing our unit's celebration after the Bagram operation. That's Captain Jenkins, my second in command. He's saved my life twice. I flip the page. General Harriman, Dad, you quoted his cybersecurity article in your Stanford speech last year. Dad leans forward, recognition flashing across his face. You work with Thomas Harriman? I report directly to him on classified operations. For the next hour, I share fragments of my life they never bothered to ask about. The innovative firewall protocol that earned presidential recognition. The 36-hour crisis response when Russian hackers targeted power grids. The team I've built from raw recruits into the most effective cyber unit in the Air Force. Bradley asks about encryption methods, his interest genuine for once. Mom studies photographs of places I've been stationed, asking what the food was like, if I made friends. Simple questions that should have been asked years ago. I was terrified every time you deployed, Mom admits. I couldn't bear to ask details because not knowing seemed safer than knowing. I measured success by the standards my father set for me, Dad says, voice rough with emotion. I never considered there were other metrics: service, leadership, courage. I pushed those values onto Bradley and rejected them in you. That was narrow-minded. Dad pressured me to be the successful child, Bradley confesses. Every promotion, every project was about proving our path was right and yours was wrong. It was exhausting. I look at the 3 people who share my blood but who have been strangers for most of my adult life. I didn't make it easy either, I admit. I stopped sharing my life because rejection hurt less when I controlled it. I chose silence over vulnerability. None of us reaches for the perfect resolution, the Hollywood ending. This is just the first real conversation we've had in over a decade, fragile, imperfect, but genuine. Outside, the sound continues its constant movement. Tides don't transform overnight. They shift gradually, predictably, in response to greater forces. Perhaps families do too. The American flag no longer feels like an accusation as I pull into my parents' driveway. 8 months since the Pentagon meeting, and the gravel crunches under my tires with a different sound, less like walking into enemy territory, more like coming home. Not entirely comfortable, but no longer hostile. Dad waves from where he's pruning the autumn rose bushes, setting down his clippers to greet me. No performance for neighbors, just a genuine smile that reaches his eyes. Cassandra. He pulls me into a brief hug that smells of earth and aftershave. Perfect timing. I wanted your thoughts on something. I follow him into his study, that mahogany-lined room where dreams were once dissected and found wanting. Now, he pushes a contract across his desk. Joint Military Corporate Security Initiative. The board wants me to lead it, but the military protocols. He shrugs, a gesture that would have been unthinkable a year ago. Richard Miller admitting limitation. Could use your insight. Before I can respond, Bradley appears in the doorway. Laptop under one arm, sleeves rolled up. His golden boy polish has softened around the edges. Hey, Cass. No diminutive, no condescension. Got that security protocol draft if you're willing to look it over. My team's good, but nobody understands the actual field implementation like you do. We work side by side for an hour, his corporate precision meshing with my battlefield practicality. No competition, just collaboration. I catch Dad watching us from the doorway, something like wonder on his face. Mom calls us for lunch, her voice floating up the stairs without the usual undertone of anxious performance. In the dining room, I stop short. There on the wall, my official Air Force portrait hangs beside Bradley's corporate headshot. Not hidden away, not a reluctant concession proudly displayed. I had it properly framed last month. Mom says, watching my reaction. The silver brings out the blue in your uniform. She touches my arm. Tell me about your new unit, the one in Seattle you're overseeing. And she actually listens as I explain the cybersecurity training program I'm developing. No glazed eyes, no polite waiting for me to finish so the conversation can return to familiar territory. After lunch, Dad pulls out photos from the military ceremony he attended last month. General Phillips remembered me. Said my daughter's innovations have saved more lives than anyone knows. Pride crinkles the corners of his eyes. He's right, isn't he? I nod, not needing to elaborate. The classified details matter less than his recognition. Bradley mentions the civilian consultation role he's recommended me for. No nepotism, he assures. The board specifically asked for you after what happened with the Pentagon contract. Said you were the only one who spotted the vulnerabilities. Later, I stand at the window, watching autumn leaves spiral down across the lawn. Mom joins me, her reflection appearing beside mine in the glass. I spent so many years afraid when you were deployed, she says quietly. It was easier to pretend you were doing something less dangerous. I couldn't bear the thought of losing you. She touches my shoulder. I'm sorry I couldn't be braver sooner. That evening, the conversation flows without the old power dynamics. We aren't perfect. Mom still fusses over Bradley's divorce proceedings. Dad occasionally slips into corporate jargon no one else understands, but the sharp edges have softened. Back in my Seattle office the following week, I rearrange my photos. Family pictures now stand beside military ones, no longer separate worlds but parts of a whole. I never wanted vindication, just understanding. Not adoration, just respect for choices made with integrity. The Colonel's eagles catch light from my window. Serving with honor speaks for itself eventually. Sometimes family takes the longest to hear it.